Hi, my name is Lindel Hart. I'm the Deerfield Academy yoga teacher, and I also teach at Community Yoga in Greenfield, Massachusetts. I'm going to lead you through a short sequence of balancing poses. That's our theme for this particular mini class, and the class will last about 15 minutes. This is just to give you an opportunity to have a short practice that you can fit into your day. Not every practice has to be an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours long. And for a lot of us, finding that amount of time is difficult. So sometimes a short yoga break is all you can fit into your day. Let that be your practice. It's better than not having anything at all. So we're going to start today just by taking a quick seated pose. So let's start off by coming to sit in a simple cross-leg pose, either Sukhasana, which is what we typically think of as a cross-leg pose, or the variant of that I prefer, Siddhasana. So for Siddhasana, instead of crossing your legs at the ankles, you actually fold your legs one in front of the other. So if these are your legs, instead of crossing at the ankles, you're folding one in front of the other and aligning the ankles. So you have one ankle, the other ankle, navel, sternum, chin. So you're creating a straight line with those 5 points. Take just a moment to let your sitting bones settle onto the floor and lift your heart. If it's difficult for you to sit in this position without the spine collapsing, you're not alone. You can take a folded blanket or a folded towel and sit on that folded blanket or towel so that you have a little bit of elevation to the hips, which typically makes it easier to lift the spine. All right, well, you sit there for just a moment. I'm going to show you the first pose that we're going to do, Vashisthasana, or side plank. 2 ways that you can approach side plank. One is you're going to be balancing on one hand and one foot. Second way, and this is good if you have any kind of wrist sensitivity or even a wrist injury, use your forearm. You're going to bring your forearm down, step your feet back, and then come into it this way. Now, I'm going to give you a little more instruction than that because I want to make sure that you have the alignment in place that's going to support your pose. The first thing to do, and you can join me in this now if you like, I'll walk you through the whole thing. Come to hands and knees. And if you're using the forearm position, just substitute forearms for hands. And we're going to take a quick plank position. With your hands or your elbows in the forearm position, placed at the front of your mat, heels of the hands directly under your shoulders. Step your feet back one at a time. And then you're going to roll to the outside edge of your right foot. Now, at this point, you can keep your left toes on the floor and lift your left arm. You could also stack your legs, one on top of the other. You want to make sure that you're using your abdominal muscles for support here, so you pull your navel in and you lift up through your fingertips as you press down through your right hand. Good. Take a breath in, exhale, come back to hands and knees. Bring your knees down if you need to take a little break here. And then we're going to take it to the second side. It's the same setup. You're just going to be using your left hand now for your balance hand. I'm going to turn around so that you can still see me from the front. Step your feet back into plank or into forearm plank if you're using the forearm variation. Roll to the outer edge of your left foot. Lift your right arm and stack your legs. You want to make sure that you're not letting your hips dip down toward the floor, but if anything, press them up slightly higher. Good. Take a breath in. Exhale, release. Come back down to hands and knees. And then we're going to come to stand. When you come to stand, think of the weight balancing in your feet, because that's your foundation of support. It's really important in these balancing poses that you're aware of your foundation. So, if you think of each foot having 4 main points of contact, that would be your big toe mound, your little toe mound, your inner heel, and your outer heel. Those 4 points give you the basic foundation that you need. So, the first pose that we're going to do is Garudasana, eagle pose. Start with your feet parallel to each other, meaning the toes are pointing straight ahead rather than angling out, and fairly close together. They do not have to be so close that they're touching. Put a little bend in your knees, just as if you were going to bounce up and down, just so that you start off with the bend that you're going to maintain. Take your left foot to the outside of your right foot. Now, as soon as you do that, the right leg wants to straighten, but keep the knee bent. Both knees will stay bent completely in this pose. All right? So we're just going to break it down and do the first half of the pose, or the bottom half of the pose. So you want to make sure your right knee is bending into the back of your left knee, but that your torso stays upright. So from the side view, you get this. It does not have to be a super deep bend in the knees. Just enough that they're not locking, okay? So this is the first half. Second half of the pose, you're going to float your arms up parallel to the floor, cross your right elbow over your left, and bend your elbows, pointing your fingers up toward the ceiling. Or you could take your hands onto your shoulders. Now, this is a variation for some people that have tighter shoulders that may be more palatable, more desirable. So you could do this, or you could point the fingers up. If you feel like you have the flexibility to do so, you would bring your fingertips of your left hand into the palm of your right. Now, what happens to a lot of people when they start this pose is as soon as the hands come in, the back rounds. You want to do this with a completely lengthened spine, completely vertical spine. So you're not even pitching forward, nor are you rounding. Okay. Once you have that, lift your elbows until they're approaching shoulder height, and press your forearms slightly away from your face, maybe an inch more. And breathe in and breathe out. Take one more breath in. And then as you exhale, unwind your arms and let them float down. Unwind your legs and come back to mountain pose. So, traditionally, this pose is done with not only the legs crossed, but the foot lifted and tucked around behind the standing leg ankle. I don't typically do it that way because I think it's harder to balance, and it's harder for hips, especially as we get a little older, to actually do that entwining. So I like to keep the toes on the floor for a little extra balance support. Now let's take the second side. Bend your knees. Take your right foot to the outside of your left. Make sure your left knee is kind of bending into the back of your right knee. Spine stays vertical. Float your arms up. Cross the left over the right. Bend your elbows and either take your hands to your shoulders and stop there, or see if you can either hold on to your left thumb with your right hand or bring your right fingertips to your left palm. Lift your elbows to shoulder height. Press your forearms away from your face. Lift your sternum like you're trying to pull your sternum up between your biceps, and relax your shoulders away from your ears. And we'll take just a couple of breaths here, making sure that both knees are bent and the spine is vertical. Take one more breath in. Exhale, unfurl the arms. Let them come down. Unwind the legs. come back to mountain pose. Good. All right, so the next pose that we're going to do is Natarajasana, sometimes known as dancer pose or lord of the dance. And this is another one-leg balancing pose. And I'm going to show you from the side first. So when you do Natarajasana, you're going to bend one leg, hold it in the same side hand, and you want to make sure that you're opening your chest. Again, this doesn't mean the spine rounds forward. If anything, you're exaggerating a little bit the opening of the chest. The other arm extends up, and then you pivot over the standing leg and come forward any amount you can. All right, so let me walk you through that. There are a few basic components, and when you put them together, that's when you get the whole pose. Let's start by focusing just for a moment on your left foot. That's your anchor. So you're going to bend your right knee, balance on your left foot, and bring your right hand to the top of your foot or your ankle, and let your right knee come back down alongside the left. As you press your foot into your hand, think of that as the impetus for lifting the sternum. So there's a built-in back bend in this pose, as well as a forward bend when you come forward. Float your left arm into the air. Now, if you feel like this is challenging right here, stay with this. You don't even have to do the forward bend. Just come into this part of Natarajasana. I'm going to show you once again from the side. The more you press the foot back into your hand, the more it opens the front of the torso. And then you're going to take a little bit at a time as you pivot over your left leg. Be patient with yourself. You might find that you can only come 10 degrees from vertical, and that's totally all right. Nothing says that you have to go way forward. All right, go ahead and slowly come up, release your arm, and release your leg. Let's take the second side. So you're going to bend your left knee as you anchor your right foot. Take hold of the top of your left foot, and then bring your left knee down again beside your right. Extend the right arm overhead. Press your foot into your hand, open the chest forward. Pivot over your right leg. Slowly bending. Now, any kind of forward bend is limited sometimes by hamstring tightness. So if you have tight hamstrings, then you're going to know that you're not coming forward quite so much. You can also put a little micro bend in your standing leg knee so that you have a little more balance support here. And then inhale, float up, and exhale, release your arms to your sides. One more standing pose that we're going to do, and that is Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. So again, it's going to be a pose that utilizes balancing on one leg, and it has some relationship to the pose that you just did, Natarajasana. This time, however, instead of that back leg being bent, it straightens. So watch for a moment. I'll demonstrate it, and then I'll walk you through. Hands come to the heart. Left leg steps back just a little. Think of your back leg as a kickstand of support temporarily. Now pull your navel in, flex your left foot, and pivot. And this is Warrior 3. Like you did before, you want to make sure that if you need to, you have a little bend in your standing leg knee. Traditionally, the arms extend forward. I like to keep them in front of my chest. I think it's a little easier to maintain balance when you do that. So let's do that together, both sides. So you're going to bring your hands to your heart, step your left foot back, keep the weight forward in your right leg. Flex your left foot as you pull your navel in, and then pivoting over your right leg, explore your balance. Think of a straight line connecting the heel of your foot and the crown of your head. Now again, you may find that you come forward maybe 10 degrees or 30 degrees or maybe 90 degrees. Doesn't matter, you work where you work. And then inhale slowly up, come back to mountain pose. And let's take the second side. So, second side, you're going to keep your left foot forward, step your right foot back, use the back leg as a kickstand, flex the foot, and pivot. As you come forward, you want to make sure you're pointing the toes downward in that back foot, not out to the side. That helps keep your hips level as you come into Warrior 3. Take another breath in, come on up. Release your foot down, arms to the sides, and you return to mountain pose. And that's the end of our practice today, our 15-minute balance practice. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Namaste.